Hey guys, Gabriel here from Syracuse. We got Christian Elverdam from Io-Interactive.
Hey.
And he's going to tell us something about the new Hitman game.
Absolutely. So we just showed you one of our levels, the palace in Paris, and it's obviously one of our examples of the new Hitman Sandbox. It's a big level, as I hope you saw, and basically what we're saying this time is it's going to be one huge level. You have a save game, and then you are actually free to fool around with what's going on in that world on your own terms. It's about a hitman, and it's about his targets, and everything else is up to you.
Okay. What's new in terms of gameplay, bigger world, to Hitman Absolution?
Well, as we talked about, obviously the first step is that the world is way larger, right? And it's not, the story won't really dictate what's going on. It's going to be up to you where you strike and what's going on. I also think the amount of characters we have in the level is a new thing. We have a new opportunity with the new hardware to actually go in and create a really detailed world, where we also, as you just saw, we can show that we actually have pretty deep mechanics for the people in the world. If they find remote explosive, as I just showed, they can react in many different ways. Security guards will disarm them and bring them to a safe place. Civilian will want for help and get someone to remove them. And in that case, we feel like we're creating this high-density sandbox where everything actually matters. There's a lot of stuff you can tamper with, from chandeliers to loudspeakers to the huge light rigs that we showed in the gameplay trailer. And that's something that we feel is really good.
How far are you in the development process of the game? Like 20% or 20% or?
That's really hard to say. Also because what we're also talking about is that we're building a living world. So what we'll do is we'll obviously release content over time, as we've been talking about. There'll be levels like Paris, we talked about Italy, we talked about going to Africa and Morocco, and then we'll also go beyond. We'll continuously create some of these locations. So that's what you need to think about as a player, that if you want to take part of that, then you jump in. And obviously once we're done building the content, then you can buy the disc, meaning that you will actually get all the locations. You won't get all the live events that we did. Some of the targets that are time limited and all that stuff will obviously not be part of it, but you know, some people like the disc, and some people like to be part of that live experience.
Did you get feedback from fans on Hitman Absolution that you are focusing on in the next game to be making better or improving?
Well, I think one of the things we're doing this time that is a little bit different to Absolution is the promise that the sandbox is the sandbox. What's going to happen in the sandbox is up to you. You're going to determine what goes on. Like in Absolution, there are going to be tons of small stories in the sandbox, tons of stuff for you to tamper with, but at no point in time will that force you to do anything. And then outside what goes on in the levels, we'll have an overarching story that obviously assumes that 47 meets and kills his targets. Much like the level we showed with the palace in Paris, that's actually part of a larger story, where we just assume that 47 went in, Nabokov died, and Dahlia died in there. But that means that the story will not dictate what's going on in the levels.
In terms of stealth, do you have to go, or do you have to be stealthy, or are there action options in an action?
I think what we're saying is, we call it the creative stealth action game, where the emphasis on creative, right? You should feel like you can play around with what you want. Obviously, you can save the game at any point, so at least on some of the lower difficulties. So you can experiment how you want. But combat is definitely an option. I think it's pretty crazy to just go in a level with 300 people and start shooting and expect to come out of that sort of in a clean way. But it's definitely the case that sometimes combat can be an option if you're surrounded by guys. Let's say you punch someone out, two guys are coming. Maybe it's a smart thing to deal with them fast. So if you feel like the game wants to play no matter what you do, that's our ambition.
Okay. Just a last question. What's the main thing you want to know fans about the new game? What's the focus, the main focus you're trying to achieve?
Well, if you're a fan of the Hitman series, I think you should know that we looked at all the games we've been building. We looked at 15 years of creating Hitman. We feel we've taken the best parts from Blood Money, the best parts from Absolution, the best parts from Silent Assassin, and then we moved them into the new next generation sandbox in Hitman, and that the focus is on complete freedom of approach. It's up to you how the target will die.
Okay. Thanks for the interview.
Cool, thank you.